Minister requests timely COVID-19 vaccination. More than 390 Vietnamese citizens flown home from Myanmar. Freedom lies in being bold. Women around the world voice their hopes for 2021. Nearly 700 Vietnamese firms eligible for aquatic export to Taiwan. Korean, German to be piloted as first foreign languages in schools. Hello, this is FBNC News with the latest updates from Vietnam. I'm Trinh Lê. Now, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc recently asked the Ministry of Health to conduct widespread COVID-19 vaccination this week after the first 117,600 doses arrived in Vietnam on February 24th. Making the request at the government's monthly meeting, the Prime Minister said vaccines must be quickly provided for the priority groups stated in the government's resolution. Firstly, the poor, disadvantaged families and the ones vulnerable to coronavirus infection. We will try to give vaccine injections to as many Vietnamese people as possible, he stressed, adding that the budget for vaccination will be ensured so that every people can be vaccinated, which is a critical necessity. All passengers have to make e-health declaration before boarding flights at airports across Vietnam, as requested by the Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam, part of efforts to prevent COVID-19 transmission. To implement the Prime Minister's recent direction on COVID-19 prevention and control, the CAAV has asked relevant agencies and units to coordinate closely with localities to apply anti-coronavirus measures appropriate to the risk level in each area and site. It demanded that related parties must not lower their guard while minimizing adverse impacts on goods transportation, production and business activities, and people's lives, and pushing ahead with the 5K principle, being khẩu trang face mask, khử khuẩn disinfection, khoảng cách distance, không tụ tập no gatherings, and khai báo y tế health declaration. The security force at airports has to instruct passengers to make e-health declaration so as to ensure that all passengers will complete the procedure before getting on board. The CAAV also told airport authorities to disseminate the above-mentioned information to all foreign airlines, as well as agencies and units operating at airports nationwide. More than 390 Vietnamese citizens were flown home from Myanmar on 2 flights on March 4th, which were arranged by Vietnamese agencies, the Vietnamese Embassy in Myanmar, and Vietnam Airlines. Passengers on the flights included under 18 children, people with illnesses, and those in other especially disadvantaged circumstances. Amid the recent political unrest in Myanmar, along with complicated COVID-19 situation, the embassy has kept a close watch on the situation and contact with citizens so as to give them specific guidance for arriving at the airport safely and on time. The embassy also sent officials to the airport to assist citizens in completing necessary procedures for boarding the flights. In order to ensure health for the citizens and prevent the spread of the pandemic, strict security, safety, and epidemiological measures were implemented throughout the flights. Immediately after the flights landed in Da Nang Airport, passengers and crews on the flights were given health check and sent to concentrated quarantine facilities in line with regulations. You're watching FBNC News. Now, Monday, March 8th marks 110 years since a designated annual International Women's Day was first commemorated. Started as a way to call attention to the need for equal rights and promote women's suffrage, this year's celebration has the theme Choose to Challenge. This video compiles the voices of women around the world, including one in Vietnam, on the challenges they face and the hopes they have ahead of the historic day.
ပါတယ်ညီမကတော့ဒီရန်ကုန်အရှိပိုင်းတက္ကသိုလ်ရဲ့ဒုတိယနှစ်ကျောင်းသူရန်ကုန်မြန်မာပြည်ကပါညီမကတော့ဗောနော်ဒီ2021မှာဒီ COVID အရင်2020မှာပေါ့2020မှာညီမတို့ဒီ COVID ကြောင့်ဗောနော်ရန်နာထားခဲ့ရတဲ့ကျောင်းတွေကိုအမြင်ပြန်ဖွင့်ဖို့အတွက်ကိုအမြင်ပြန်ဖွင့်ပြီးတော့ကျောင်းတက်ရဖို့အရေးကိုညီမတို့ကဒီ2021မှာမျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့
農場桃子です。22歳です。私は2021年オリンピック組織委員会だけじゃなく企業政治あらゆる場所で女性のリーダーが増えて女性の声が反映される社会を望みます。
I'm Camille Anton, founder and CEO of Robotic Activations. My hope for women this year is that we break more barriers in the fields of science and technology, so we encourage the younger generation of women to consider a career in this fast-growing but very male-dominated industry.
我叫史文，是 FIFO Life Girl Power Studio 的合伙人和这里的体育老师。我2021年的愿望是希望我的家人身体健健康康，希望自己所经营的这个教室能够在艰难时事中存活下去，也希望在教室里我现在遇到的和以前遇到的这些姑娘们，她们的生活都不管遇到什么困难都能克服。一切顺利。
به نام خدا زالبیات هستم عضو تیم ملی بالنگ افغانستان. من من حیث یک ورزشکار افغان آرزوی من برای خانم‌ها در سال 2021 این است که حقوقشان پایمال نشن، مورد خشونت قرار نگیرن.
I'm Sunetra Bandaranaike. I'm from Colombo, Sri Lanka. I do social work. Sri Lanka elected the world's first woman prime minister. However, 6 decades later, women have only 5% representation in our parliament. I wish to see, in the future, many more women in positions of decision making in governments and in the corporate sectors.
Xin chào, tôi tên là Phan Thị Hiển, tôi làm nghề hoa 25. Mong ước của tôi của năm 2021 này, tôi mong cho toàn thế giới đẩy lùi dịch bệnh và chị em phụ nữ sắp tới đây có mùng 8 tháng 3, chị em phụ nữ sẽ được tặng những bó hoa tươi thắm của những tình yêu.
I'm Kristen Chong. I'm from Singapore. I run a hawker store. I'm a hawker. My store is a Gigi Noodle House. My hope for Women 2021 is that women will get more protection and recognition.
नमस्कार, मेरो नाम कृष्ण कुमारी बोरा हो। सानोतिनो पसल राखेर बसेको छु, दुःख गरेको छु। आफूले पढ्न पाएको भए उ बेला जमानामा पढाइ थिएन, पढ्न पाइएन। अहिले छोरीहरूले राम्रोसँग पढुन्, राम्रो होस्, ठुलो शिक्षा पाउन्, सुख दिउन्, दुःख नहोस्, राम्रो होस्, त्यही हो।
ปิยพร พรหมจันทร์นะคะ เป็นพนักงานบริษัทแถวถนนวิทยุปี 2021 นี้นะคะอยากให้ทางเดินถนนทางเดินสำหรับคนเดินไปมาเนี่ยค่ะเรียบและมีสายไฟที่ไม่พันกันอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วลงไปข้างล่างสักทีค่ะให้เร็วที่สุดเท่าที่จะเร็วได้ค่ะตอนนี้ส้นสูงสึกแล้วนะคะ
Ambassador Nguyễn Hải Bằng presented his letter of credential to ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Chok Hoi at a virtual ceremony on February 26, officially becoming Vietnam's representative to the ASEAN. This is the first time a ceremony of this kind has been held in the virtual form amid the complicated development of the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. On the occasion, the ASEAN Secretary General again praised the success of Vietnam during the year it held the chairmanship of ASEAN in 2020, especially in leading ASEAN in maintaining solidarity and proactively responding to the complicated developments of the pandemic. He reaffirmed the important contributions of the Committee of the Permanent Representatives (CPR) during the year of ASEAN Chairmanship 2020, including chairing and participating in the successful negotiation of many documents in the framework of ASEAN cooperation with partners, coordinating inter-pillar issues, and strengthening the role and activities of the ASEAN Secretariat. He expressed his belief that Ambassador Bang, with his experience as a senior diplomat, will make important contribution to the CPR work, thus further consolidating Vietnam's role and position in ASEAN and ASEAN's in the international community. Ambassador Bang reiterated Vietnam's commitment to realize the ASEAN Vision 2025 through close coordination with other ASEAN members. In 2021, Vietnam will serve as chair of the Initiative for ASEAN Integration IAI Task Force and chair of the Board of Trustees of the ASEAN Foundation. The country will end its tenure as coordinator of ASEAN-Japan relations and take over as coordinator of ASEAN ROK relations for 2021-2024. Demand for tech goods has Asian factories getting busier, but signs of a slowdown in China hints that sustained recovery from the health crisis could prove difficult. Strong demand for tech goods is helping Asian factories to get busy. Latest figures showed manufacturing activity in Japan rose at its fastest pace in 2 years. In South Korea, exports rose for a fourth straight month in February. Memory chips and cars were among goods driving the 9.5% gain there. Factories also get busier in India, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. The numbers suggest makers are benefiting from robust global trade. Hopes have been lifted by worldwide rollouts of vaccine programs, but there could be a warning light flickering in China. The closely watched Caixin Market Purchasing Managers Index for manufacturers dropped to 50.9 in February. That's the lowest level since May, though still well above the 15-point mark that indicates expanding activity. Output there was hit by new domestic flare-ups of the health crisis and softer demand from some export markets. Some economists think the dip will be short-lived, though one at SBC told Reuters that recovering domestic demand will likely help China's factories. Analysts say companies in countries emerging from lockdown will also lift demand as they start stocking up again. The Taiwan Food and Drug Administration (TFDA) has announced a list of 697 Vietnamese fishery companies meeting the conditions for export to Taiwan. This means that 59 more firms have been approved to enter the list since October 2019. According to the Vietnam Association of Seafood Exporters and Producers, Taiwan is not among the top 10 importers of Vietnamese aquatic products, but records a stable annual turnover of more than $100 million. The value of aquatic products shipped to the economy accounts for about 1.3 to 1.8% of Vietnam's total fishery export revenue. Vietnam's aquatic export value reached $405 million in February, pushing the figure in the first 2 months of this year to over $1 billion, up more than 2% over the same period last year. Schools nationwide will pilot the teaching of Korean and German as first foreign languages under a decision freshly issued by the Ministry of Education and Training. Many foreign languages have been taught in schools of Vietnam over the years, with those being mandatory including English, French, Chinese, Russian, and later Japanese. Second languages which are optional included Korean and German. The MOET explains that positive results have been seen in teaching Korean and German as second foreign languages in some provinces and cities, and students' demand is also on the rise. To help reduce the pressure on those who select Korean and German as their second foreign languages, while also studying a first foreign language, the MOET has decided to temporarily elevate the two of the first foreign language category. The move is also in keeping with framework agreements signed between Vietnam and the Republic of Korea and Germany on teaching their languages at Vietnamese schools. The pilot program will be rolled out in areas with great demand and which are able to ensure necessary conditions in terms of teachers, facilities, links between levels of education, and registration with the MOET. For its part, the ministry will keep a close watch on the implementation of the program to guarantee its efficiency and students' rights. It will assess its effectiveness and feasibility and afterwards consider whether to make the two languages official first foreign languages at schools. Now, Nguyễn Ngọc Mạnh, a delivery driver, has been hailed a hero after he caught a baby who had fallen from the 13th story of an apartment block in Hanoi. He said he heard desperate screams from neighbors alerting people below that the child had climbed over a balcony railing and was clinging on for her life. The 31-year-old driver climbed onto the corrugated roof of a small structure on the ground floor moments before the 3-year-old girl lost her grip. As she plummeted to the ground, Mạnh managed to grab her and pluck the baby to safety. "I don't think I'm a hero. Anybody would have done the same," he said. On March 1st, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc sent a letter praising Mạnh for his bravery. In his letter, he wrote, "I praise Nguyễn Ngọc Mạnh for his courageous action and high sense of responsibility." He asked the Hanoi People's Committee and the Central Committee of Emulation and Commendation to honor Mạnh noble gesture, kindness and compassion so that there will be more people like him in society. The capital city also launched a movement called Good People, Good Deeds following Mạnh action, which has also received bags of compliments from netizens. Although the child suffered a dislocated hip from the fall, she is recovering well in hospital and is expected to be allowed to leave soon. Secretary of the Hanoi Municipal Party Committee Vương Đình Huệ has requested ensuring the progress of repairing and upgrading work on facilities for the 31st Southeast Asian Games and the 11th Southeast Asian Para Games. He made the request while inspecting the city's training of athletes and preparations for the competition, as Hanoi will be the venue for the opening and closing ceremonies and the competition of 25 out of 40 sport events in SEA Games 31st and all activities during ASEAN Para Games 11. Now that has come to an end of FBNC News this week. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye.